I want to take you to a place nobody wants to go. This is a room where the truth lives. Outside this room, in the busy world, we lie to ourselves. We tell ourselves that we are working for our families. We tell ourselves that we need that new car to be respected. We tell ourselves that we will relax next year. But in this room, when the clock is running out, the lies stop. 10 years ago, I had a heart scare. I spent 3 weeks in a palliative care unit, not because I was dying, but because there was no other bed available. So, for 3 weeks, I lived among the dying. I met a nurse there. Her name was Maria. She had been working with terminal patients for 20 years. She had held the hands of over 1,000 people as they took their last breath. One night, when the ward was quiet, I asked her a question. I asked, Maria, what do they talk about? In the end, when it's just you and them in the dark, what do they regret? Do they talk about their careers? Do they talk about their bank accounts? Maria smiled a sad, knowing smile. She put down her chart and looked at me. Thomas, she said, in 20 years I have listened to CEOs, doctors, factory workers, and housewives take their final audit of life. And do you know what the number one regret is? I leaned in. I expected her to say, I wish I had saved more money, or I wish I had bought that beach house, or I wish I had become the CEO. She shook her head. No, she said, not one single person, not one, has ever said, I wish I had spent more time at the office. Not one person has ever said, I wish I had made more money. She told me the most common regret was this. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. And the second most common regret, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Those words hit me like a physical punch in the chest. I lay in my hospital bed that night, staring at the ceiling, and I did a calculation. I call it the Deathbed Calculation. I took my age, 65 at the time. I calculated how many hours I had spent worrying about what my neighbors thought of me. Thousands of hours. I calculated how many hours I had spent in meetings that I hated, trying to impress a boss who didn't even know my wife's name. Tens of thousands of hours. I calculated how many family dinners I had missed because I was too busy building a legacy. And then I looked at the other side of the ledger. How many hours had I spent truly laughing with my children? How many sunsets had I actually watched without checking my phone? How many times had I told my wife I loved her, not just out of habit, but really looking into her soul? The math was terrifying. I was rich in dollars. I had millions in the bank, but I was bankrupt in memories. I realized that if I died right then and there, my deathbed audit would be a failure. I had spent my life chasing a currency that has zero value in the afterlife. You see, we are confused about what wealth is. Society tells you that wealth is a number. It tells you that if you have a zero balance, you are poor. If you have 6 zeros, you are rich. But the dying know the truth. The dying know that wealth is time. Wealth is connection. Wealth is peace. When you are taking your last breath, you cannot eat your money. You cannot drive your car. You cannot wear your expensive watch. All those things stay here. They go back in the box. The government takes a piece, your kids fight over the rest, and eventually it all ends up in a landfill or an antique shop. The only thing you take with you is who you became. The only thing you take with you is the love you gave and the love you received. Maria told me about a man named John. He was a wealthy businessman. He had built an empire. On his last day, he was agitated. He was restless. He kept asking for his phone. He wanted to check the stock market. Maria gently took his hand and said, "John, it doesn't matter anymore." He looked at her, and for the first time the realization hit him. The panic in his eyes turned to tears. He whispered, "I wasted it. I wasted it all on the wrong things." He died an hour later. He died with a net worth of $50 million and a regret worth infinity. Then she told me about a woman named Eleanor. Eleanor was a school teacher. She never made much money. She lived in a small house, but on her last day, her room was full. Her former students were there. Her children were there. Her grandchildren were there. There was laughter in the room. There were stories. When Eleanor took her last breath, she wasn't looking at a stock ticker. She was looking into the eyes of her daughter. She was smiling. She died poor by the world's standards. But she was the wealthiest person in that hospital. I want you to pause this video for a second. I want you to look at your life right now. Where are you spending your life currency? Are you spending it on anger? Holding grudges against people who don't even care about you? That is a bad investment. Are you spending it on fear? Worrying about a future that hasn't happened yet? That is a bad investment. Are you spending it on impressing strangers on the internet? That is the worst investment of all. Imagine you are 90 years old. You are in that bed. The lights are dim. The machine is beeping. What will you wish you had done today? Will you wish you had worked an extra hour of overtime? No. Will you wish you had argued with strangers on Facebook? No. Will you wish you had bought the newer iPhone? No. You will wish you had hugged your mother a little tighter. You will wish you had forgiven your brother. You will wish you had taken that trip, written that book, or just sat in the grass and felt the sun. You will wish you had been brave enough to be you. The tragedy of life is not that it ends so soon. The tragedy is that we wait so long to begin it. We wait for retirement. We wait for the weekend. We wait for permission. Stop waiting. Nurse Maria taught me that the dying don't regret their mistakes. They regret their inaction. They regret the things they didn't do. They regret the I love yous that were left unspoken. They regret the dreams that were left in the drawer. I walked out of that hospital 3 weeks later. The sky was gray. It was raining. The traffic was terrible. And I smiled. I smiled at the rain. I smiled at the traffic because I was alive. I had another chance to fix my calculation. I stopped working late. I started calling my friends. I started walking in the park without my phone. I started investing in the only currency that matters. Please, listen to an old man who almost learned this lesson too late. Don't let your life be a list of I should haves. Don't let your final thought be a regret. Do the calculation today. If today was your last day, would you be happy with how you spent it? If the answer is no, then change it. Change it now, before the beeping stops. Because one day, the nurse will come into the room. She will check the chart. She will look at you. And in that moment, your bank account won't save you. Only your memories will.